Welcome back to TNN's coverage of the world's 9 best fantasy football players league. I'm Danny Football, filling in for your host who is out once again. Give this guy a week and he really has a tough time coming back. This is what we have for you this week. It's week 4 and interdivisional play is officially starting in the league. To mark this momentous occasion, Commissioner Tooch has asked me to pass along an important message to y'all that some people still need to pay their buy-ins. And now, here is Danny Football with his picks for week 4. Hey, what's up, guys? World's 9 best fantasy football players expert, Danny Football here, back with another week of expert predictions. Last week, I did pretty well for myself, going 5-1, bringing my total on the year up to a very nice 9-3. My guest Nooch also went 5-1, being unable to beat the expert and extending his streak to 5 years of losing, being unable to beat the expert. But now, it's a new week, there's a new guest, and a new chance to beat the expert. So guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
How's it going, everyone? Mike Viscani, proud owner of Team Ham and Throw. It's always good to be back on TNN. We always come on here, put on a good show, get our speak out, and tell everyone the real truth about what's going on in this league. So, ready to get
Yeah,
started.
something like that, I suppose. Always great to have you, and we'll see how it goes. All right, first up, we have the Texarkana Bandits taking on Worthy of Love. Bandits favored at 66%. This is, I really don't want to spend too much time on this matchup. This is the best team in the league going up against the worst team in the league. Look, fans of the show will know that I am high on the Bandits. I'm on the Bandits train, and I'm never going to get off. Worthy of Love, I think, is still a couple years away from even being close to contending. They've got a couple pieces, maybe, but it's going to take some time for those guys to develop. I think if Worthy of Love wins this, I will be genuinely shocked. So I'm going to go with the Bandits in this one.
Yeah, I'm glad we started with this matchup too. This is probably the things I have the least amount to say about. Like I have some things written down for each team, but under Worthy of Love, I just said not good, don't pick. That's really all. I just read their team. I was like, nope, they're not good. They're not good. Move on. So as far as Texarkana, they have star power. Everyone knows it. They're good every year, but they always fizzle out in the playoffs. I would say they're our version of the Dallas Cowboys. They get hyped up every year. People get excited about them for good reason, but I just don't see them ever really making that run when the time comes. But I'll take Texarkana this week, but can only be so high on them.
But do the Dallas Cowboys have Trayvon Walker? Is the question.
That is true. You don't.
Missing points in your
that is
analysis
that
there.
is a big thing there. When Trayvon Walker, we'll see what he does in the playoffs. I don't know what his playoff numbers have looked like over the last couple of years, but
Strong.
that could really put him over. Yeah, always strong.
Next up, we have Team Big Chungus 22 taking on Undefeated Never Lost. This one currently at 50-50. Who do you like in this matchup?
Definitely an intriguing matchup. I'll start with the Chung guy. Made a lot of big moves last year. Everyone knows it. I was a big fan of the Chung guy, always rooting him on. Felt like they probably did too much and it just didn't pay off for them. I think, this isn't going to be their year. We kind of all know that. I think they have to start making some moves. They got a lot of old guys on the team that I think provide value. If I'm Will, trade them away. Hit the reset button. It might take a couple years, a few years, but get some picks, get some young guys, get rid of, Kamara and Hill could probably get a lot for Jay Connor, Evans. Maybe you'll get some for them. We'll see. As far as UNL, you got the opposite end of the spectrum, a team that's really trying to build itself up, which they have since the very beginning of this league. Yet to pay off. So I guess that kind of goes to show for tanking teams, how long it can take to really turn a team around. But maybe for better manager than Miguel, can happen a little bit faster. And Danny Stortz. I always forget to mention Danny Stortz. He's actually the villain of our team.
Don't lump Danny Stortz. Not too much on Danny Stortz.
Not too much. All
He's
right,
been
all right,
a great offensive coordinator for them.
all right. I'll stop the Danny Stortz talk. Um, I think they actually look pretty good on paper. I'll say it. They got a lot of young talent. I think they're finally going to start putting the pieces together. Hasn't really happened yet this year. 1 and 2, getting a little bit better week by week. But I really like their core. I think they're on the rise. I'm going to take them this week over the Chungai, and maybe this is the year that they finally make the playoffs.
This is one I think is really, like you said, for Big Chungus, this is a really big game. I think this is a must-win game for them. If they drop to 0-4 after all those big moves that they made last year, I think it's going to be a really awful, awful place for them. And they've got some pieces, like you mentioned, that may be very enticing, very intriguing to some teams that are looking to make a playoff push. I know Will has high hopes for this team this year. I don't know how likely those actually are. And if he wants to get into the playoffs, he's got to turn it around right here. Undefeated, never lost. I think their team is starting to come up. They're moving on the right trajectory, but I feel like this has been something that I've said for many years now, and I don't know exactly when they're going to finally make that turn and make that playoff push. I do like the general trajectory of their team right now, though, and I'm going to pick undefeated, never lost to pick up the win in this one. Next up, we have Too Many Cooks taking on Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Blood, Sweat, and Beers favored here at 53%. This matchup is not super interesting to me. Not a lot of great matchups this week, I'll be honest. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Both of these teams are 1-2 right now. Whoever falls to 1-3 is going to be in a really, really rough spot, rough shape for their team. I know Joe in particular is someone that is looking to compete. He's got a lot of older, aging assets on his team, really wants to make that push after a disappointing year last year. Jacob, Blood, Sweat, and Beers, I think they're still looking to rebuild. They're probably not going to be as hurt if they lose here. So I think it's going to be much more devastating to Too Many Cooks if they lose. I'm going to pick them to eke out a victory in this one.
Yeah, this is a very intriguing matchup because I think I mentioned this last year when I came on. It's like you never really know what Jacob's motives are.
Yeah.
His team can be fiery at times, and sometimes I feel like that's against his what he actually wants out of the team. Um, but they came off a hot week last week. We're actually seeing a matchup right now of the highest scoring team versus the lowest scoring team of last week.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
I know he put Aaron Jones in the trade block. We'll see if he's trying to get rid of him or like Amari Cooper sometime soon, or if
I
maybe
mean,
he'll
he should.
realize, which he should.
Aaron Jones should not be on that team anymore.
Yeah, but hey, say Jacob wins this week, he sees himself at 2-2. Maybe he sees something. He sees something in his
No,
team. He's
no,
got
he
a
does
few
not.
young pieces, but
No, he does not.
he doesn't see it, but maybe someone else does. Uh, um, his QB situation's interesting. I think I'm kind of low on Burrow now. Not looking too good. Tua might not be alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where that puts him. We'll see. I think he's going to rebuild. As far as Too Many Cooks, I was looking at his team. He has some decent star power. Obviously, Hall and Barkley, great duo, but don't really love his team outside of that. I'll say it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan of Too Many Cooks. And I was looking at Mahomes. He's not even a top 12 QB right now
That's
after 3
true.
weeks.
Mahomes is bad.
So it makes you wonder if he's actually even valuable at quarterback. I think his name is kind of carrying him, where he doesn't really provide as much value as people want him to. So I'm actually going to roll with looking at what we saw last week out of these two teams, and I'll say Blood, Sweat, and Beer
Mm.
just takes it home. Too Many Cooks is going to be another year of trying to see if they can pull out a late year run.
Too Many Cooks, maybe cooked.
I think they're cooked.
Next up, we have Hammond Throw versus Team M Vanek. M Vanek favored at 54%. What are your thoughts on this one?
Obviously I have a lot of thoughts, as you guys are always aware of. I'll try to keep it short this year. I know all of our time is valuable. As we can see based on everyone's poor contributions to the show and the league this year. So I'll just throw that out there. But slow start for Hammond Throw. Love the potential. I think we had a great draft class this year. Got a few wide receivers that are looking like, a couple of them are definitely going to pan out. We'll see about the third. People gave me crap about Jaden Daniels taking him late in the second. I always said, I love Anthony Richardson, but he scares me as a quarterback. You never know what you're going to get out of him. I needed another option, and I can announce right now we're making the move. Jaden Daniels is our starting quarterback moving forward. You know, we love Anthony Richardson, his potential, but we think he's got to take a step back, grow as a quarterback, and maybe see if he can unseat Daniels. But for right now, we're going Daniels. We're moving forward with that.
A very bold
Um,
move for someone taken
very,
in the first
very
round
bold.
just last year. Really, really
Yeah.
not a very long leash with Anthony Richardson there. Makes you question the
No,
decision making in the front office.
you know, I think the GM, we always do what's best interest in our team and trying to win right now. We love Anthony Richardson long term. Absolutely love him. Happy to have him as part of our organization. But for right now, we're going to take the results that we're seeing this year. And right now, Jane Daniels looks like the person that's going to put us in the best position to win moving forward. That might be different down this season. Could be different a year or two from now. We don't know. We love both of them, but right now we're going with Jaden. Other than that, love my wide receiver depth. We need more star power, but we got the pieces. We got the pieces rolling. So I like it. We're gonna be a playoff team this year. Obviously, I'm gonna take my team. As far as M. Vanek, he's a decent team. Obviously, pulled it together last year. Got some good pieces. Moving forward, I think he's got very little depth. I was looking at his team and his bench is god awful. I think a couple injuries, throw in the bye weeks, he could start to struggle. But when his team's healthy, he has a pretty solid team. So we'll see what we get out of him. But we're rolling with Hammond throw this year, obviously.
Yeah, I think this is a matchup that's actually pretty intriguing. Team M Vanek, they've definitely had to step back from some of their breakout stars from last year with like Tank Dell, Sam Laporta, those guys. Not really been the top end contenders that he was hoping for, but I think they're still a pretty solid team, like you said. Hammond throw, on the other hand, I have made my position abundantly clear on them. I think this team is awful from the top to bottom, management, all the way down to whatever reserves they have on the taxi squad. One of the worst in the league, might I add. I don't feel like I even need to really dignify this team with analysis or a response this week. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick Team M. Vanek in this one.
Big regret.
Moving on, we have the mental brick walls taking on Jesus Christ. It's Jay Sanborn. This one also currently at 50-50. Kind of surprising matchup here, to be honest. Jay Sanborn has come out the gates hotter than I expected for sure. They're sitting at 2-1. Quentin Johnston has somehow looked like an actual quarterback, or sorry, an actual wide receiver with Justin Herbert throwing the ball now. Not too terrible over the first few weeks here. Malik Neighbors has also been an absolute stud for this team. I'm sure they're very happy with their draft choice there. For the Brick Walls, they've gotten along pretty well so far, but this is a team I am really, really worried about, specifically at the quarterback position. Trevor Lawrence has looked terrible, and he is the only quarterback on this entire roster. We all know how scarce this league is at the quarterback position. Not a lot of guys you can just go out there and pick up. I think if Trevor Lawrence continues to look bad, he is going to pull this mental brick walls team down with him. With that being said, though, I think this one ends up being pretty close, just as Sleeper projects. I'm trusting the Sleeper projections on this one. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to give the edge to the brick walls and their experience as a team in this one. I think they're going to win in spite of Trevor Lawrence.
I think anything about trusting sleeper analysis is poor analysis. So we'll see how that pans out. As far as Jay Sanborn, I agree. I think Neighbors has been a hit. Looks great. I think he's going to be a stud for years to come. And especially if he gets a better quarterback, you can only imagine about what he can do. So I still think the team's kind of in flux. I think their rebuild might be faster than some were expecting. And I think he's going to be a sneaky team this year that can do some damage. As far as the brick walls, obviously a hot start. You know, they're off to a pretty good start. You know, 3-0. I think they're the only team that's 3-0. But I also think that the QB situation is also what startled me. I
Mm-hmm.
think you look back at the draft and everyone was like, all right, you know, Brett's the guy. He's got to get a quarterback. And he came up at second round, ninth pick. And I was like, all right, there goes Jaden Daniels. And he texts me and basically hands me Jaden Daniels for free by moving back to the end of the third round and doing just a first round pick swap next year, which might actually not even end up being worth anything. Jane Daniels is the number 3 quarterback right now in fantasy football, and Brett basically got nothing out of that. Also drafted Keon Coleman in the first round, who doesn't look like he's hitting right now. So I like his team right now. I think he's made some poor decisions. I think that he could get really, really hurt at the QB position. I'll take him this week, but I don't like his projection down the rest of the season.
Finally, in our marquee matchup of the week, we have the SWAT team taking on the Judon Noodles. SWAT currently favored very narrowly in this one at 51%. Who do you like in this matchup?
So, an intriguing matchup. I'll start with SWAT team. Everyone knows their defense is what carries them. That's been kind of their motto throughout this entire franchise, and it's proven to work. I do think that their offense, they've got some talent, but don't really love it. I'll say it. Caleb might be a bust. We can make all those statements. It's been 3 games. I think that's enough to make a statement about any rookie
Small sample
quarterback.
size, very
Small
small
sample
sample
size, but I've
size.
seen enough. I saw some of those throws last week. I don't think Caleb Williams is good. Bears are screwed. SWAT team is screwed. Um, as far as the Noodles goes, I also just don't think the Noodles, this looks like the worst team they might have ever had.
Yeah,
I think ever since they drafted, Lamar, Kelsey, CMC, they've always had that star power to carry them. And even though Lamar is probably still good, not having CMC and seeing Kelsey really hit his decline, I think has taken a lot out of this team. They really relied on those guys to really carry them, get those big high scores, but I think they kind of are just a mid team now without them. A lot of old guys, so I think if you look at them moving forward, sure they might still be good this year, but how much else do they have left in the tank? If it's not good to win the
true.
championship, do you start, you know, trying to get rid of some of those guys and make a quicker rebuild? I don't know. I think Timmy has a lot of questions to answer. Um, but as far as picking 4 against the SWAT team, you guys know I hate defense and like to choose against defense. And so I'm going to take the Noodles here. I'll say they get a win and start feeling pretty good about their year moving ahead. But I still think a lot of questions need to be answered soon enough.
Yeah, I like some of the analysis there. I'll say that. This one could end up being of consequence down the stretch because I know it may not seem like much, but the difference between 2-2 and 3-1 is really big at this point in the season. It makes managers start to sweat and really think about the positioning of their teams. The Judon Noodles, frankly, I think have been a shell of their former selves this season with CMC out, Pacheco out, Travis Kelsey looking terrible, T. Higgins looking terrible, and who was right about this team falling apart? Me. I'm the expert. I called this, and look where it's gotten us. I think Timmy has, like you said, a lot of tough decisions to make. I think he could be a candidate for kind of like a 1 year reload, like punt on this year, maybe try to make a push next year. But a lot of his assets have really gone down in value. I think it's going to be really hard for him to compete with some of the top teams in this league. For SWAT, on the other hand, they've put up the second highest points total in the league so far this year over the course of 3 weeks. They average close to 50 more points per game than the Noodles. You may not like it, but this team is still good. They are here to stay, and I'm expecting big things out of the SWAT team this year and this week. I'm picking them to win in this one. Well, Visconti, thank you so much for being here to pick with me this week. I'm wishing you all the best of luck. Of course, not as good as me, can't beat the expert, but it's been great having you. And I look forward to seeing you back here probably next year.
Thanks, Danny Football. It's always a pleasure being on the show. I fully expect to be here at the end of the year for I believe the 3rd, maybe 4th year in a row.
I
Might have to check
believe
this.
it would. I believe it would be
Third,
three.
three. All right.
Hold on, hold
Either
on,
way.
hold on. The fact checkers, they're in my ear right now. Hold on, hold on.
Okay, let's hear it.
It would be three.
Okay, it would be 3. I might have the best record against Danny Football. Can you guys check that?
Hold on, hold on. What do you mean by best record?
I'll say most times beaten.
No, you're tied with Mike Vanek.
All right, but I'm up there.
You are up there.
Good, good. I'll take the lead this week. So
We'll see about that one. And thank you, guest Visconti and Danny Football, for those great picks. That's all we have time for this week. Be sure to tune in next week to see how things shook out. I'm Danny Football, and this has been TNN.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell.